Okay, so I really need the internet to tell me if I'm the crazy one here. Because I was just trying to build a better future for us, and my ex-fiancé, I guess, just walked out. Like packed his bags and left. Over that. Is that even a thing? Look, I have this theory about relationships, you know? It's not a fairy tale, you can't just coast. Coasting is just a slow-motion breakup. It's the death of ambition, for you and for the partnership. Not in this world. You have to actively build something. You have to push each other to level up. My friends, they all get it. My best friend, Jenna, she's in corporate law and her husband's in finance. They literally prep each other for quarterly reviews like they're going into battle. They strategize career moves over dinner. It's a partnership. A merger, that's what I wanted. And Hudson, God, he's a good man, I want to be clear about that. He's the kind of guy who'd notice I was running low on my favorite ridiculously expensive face cream and have a new one waiting for me. He could listen to me rant for an hour about my asshole boss and then somehow make me laugh about it. But that kindness, that steadiness, it started to feel like a lack of drive. He was a history teacher at the local community college. He was content. And that's sweet, but it's not a plan. It was like watching a Ferrari being used to just get groceries. I saw this incredible, brilliant man, and I just wanted the rest of the world to see him too. I wanted to help him unlock all of that. I could just see it so clearly. The Hudson who could command a lecture hall at a top-tier university, not just a classroom of 19-year-olds who are half asleep. The Hudson who writes a book that gets talked about. The man who could stand next to me at my firm's galas, where everyone is sizing everyone else up. You know how it is. And not just be introduced as Marin's sweet teacher boyfriend, but as Dr. Hudson Reed, the respected historian. I wasn't trying to change him, not really. I was trying to polish him, to help him see the version of himself that I saw, the version he was supposed to be. I was his partner, his biggest cheerleader. What's so wrong with that, right? So my plan, as he later called it, was really just a series of small nudges. At least that's how I saw them. Strategic encouragement. For example, we'd go out for dinner with Jenna and her husband, or some of my other friends from work. They'd all be talking about closing a deal, or a partner track, or their stock options vesting, and Hudson. Well, he'd tell a really funny story about a student who thought the Cold War was a conflict in Alaska. It was charming, you know, but it wasn't impressive, so I'd try to help. I'd jump in and say something like, Hudson is our designated humanist, keeping us all grounded before his academic celebrity era begins. Everyone would give a little, tight smile. One time, I remember this so clearly, he was talking about his salary, making a self-deprecating joke about it, and I squeezed his arm and said to the table, We're in our bootstrap phase. I'm building the capital and he's building the character. It's a perfect synergy. I thought it sounded witty, like something a power couple would say, but Hudson just went quiet for the rest of the dinner. He just stirred his drink and stared into it. I thought he was just tired, or maybe even inspired, you know, thinking about the future. Then there was the Teacher of the Year award from the college. He came home one evening and he was literally glowing. He was so proud, holding this little acrylic plaque like it was an Oscar. And for a second, I was proud too. I really was. But my brain just immediately went to the next step. It's automatic for me. Honey, this is amazing, I said, giving him a quick kiss. This is a fantastic start, so what's the play? We leverage this, right? We use it to start a conversation about you becoming the department head. The light in his eyes just flickered out. It was that fast. He looked at the plaque in his hand and set it down on the counter. It's just a nice thing, Marin, he said. Can't it just be a nice thing? And I remember thinking, nice doesn't get you a corner office. Nice doesn't get you a summer home in the Hamptons, so I pushed. Of course it's nice, but nice can also be a stepping stone. I'm just trying to think about the big picture for us. He didn't say anything else. He just walked away and took a really long shower. I figured he was just processing it, seeing the logic in my point. The biggest thing, I guess, was the GMAT. I saw it as the ultimate investment in him, in us. I did all the research, found the best prep course, and paid the deposit. I presented it to him one night as a surprise, complete with a PowerPoint slide. I know, a bit much, but it's how I think. showing the projected increase in his lifetime earning potential with an MBA. "This isn't just a degree, babe," I told him, all excited. "It's a ticket. It's the key to the life we both deserve." He just stared at the laptop screen. He didn't look surprised or happy. He looked trapped. "Marin," he said, his voice really quiet, "I don't want an MBA. I'm a historian. I teach history." I thought he was just scared of the challenge. "Don't be," I said, taking his hand. "We'll do this together. I'll help you study every night." He pulled his hand away. It was the first time he'd ever done that. "That's not the point," he said, and just left the room. Each time he got quiet, each time he pulled away, I swear to God, I thought it was him just needing a minute to get on board with the grand vision. I thought he saw what I saw, but was just a little intimidated. I had no idea that I wasn't building a future. I was building a cage. And here's the part that makes me want to just, I don't know, curl up and die. The part that keeps replaying in my head at 3 a.m. I knew this was his one big thing. He told me about his father early on. It wasn't a casual story, it was a confession. His dad was this titan of industry, a self-made man who saw everything as a transaction and everyone as an asset or a liability. He never, not once, told Hudson he was proud of him. Every achievement was just a new, higher baseline. An A- on a report card would be met with, "So what happened to the other 5%? Getting captain of the debate team. Good. Leadership looks good on applications. What's next? Hudson told me. He spent his entire childhood feeling like a project that was perpetually behind schedule. He said the greatest relief of his life was moving out and realizing he could just be. He chose to be a teacher. He told me with tears in his eyes one night because he wanted to be the person he never had. He wanted to be the adult who looked a kid in the eye and said, "Hey, you did a great job. You should be proud of that," and actually mean it. That was his whole world. That feeling of validation of being enough just as he was. It was the one thing he was completely uncompromising about. And did I listen? I mean, I heard the words. I nodded and held him and told him his father was an asshole. But my stupid, arrogant brain processed that information completely wrong. I didn't think, wow, this is a deep wound, I need to protect it. I need to be his safe place. No, I thought, okay, I see the flaw in the execution. His father's method was all stick and no carrot. It was just pressure for pressure's sake. But me, I'm different. I'm doing this from a place of love. My pressure is productive. It's for us. I'm not his father, I'm his partner. God, I was so fucking sure I had it all figured out. I saw his deepest trauma as a case study, a problem I could solve with a better methodology. I never once considered that I wasn't fixing the problem. I was becoming it. The breaking point wasn't some big, dramatic fight. There was no screaming, no throwing things. It was quiet, and honestly, that was so much worse. It was a Tuesday. Hudson came home, and he was, I don't know, electric. He was practically vibrating with excitement, waving this thick envelope in his hand. "I got it, Marin. I got it," he said, his voice cracking a little. "The professorship at the state university, the one I interviewed for last month." He was beaming. I hadn't seen him look that purely, uncomplicatedly happy in a long time. He was so proud. And my first thought, God help me, my very first thought wasn't congratulations. It wasn't I'm so proud of you. It was, okay, what's the next move on the board? My mind just clicked into its usual gear. While he was standing there, holding this letter like it was a golden ticket, I had my phone out. I wasn't even thinking about it, my fingers were just moving. State University History Department ranking. Average starting salary associate professor. I was scanning data, processing metrics. He was still talking. Something about how much he loved the campus and how excited he was about the curriculum. But I was only half listening. "Okay," I said, looking up from my phone, my brain already in project manager mode. "Okay, let me see the offer letter." He handed it to me, his smile faltering just a little. I scanned the salary and benefits. "All right," I said, nodding. "The pay bump is decent, and their history department is ranked in the top 50 statewide. That's a significant improvement over the community college." I looked at him, trying to convey that I was pleased with this progress report. "This is a solid move, babe. A great stepping stone." And then I said the words. the words that I now know ended everything. We can leverage this. We'll treat this as phase 1. In 2 years, with this on your resume, we can start seriously planning your application to a real Ivy League. The silence that followed was deafening. The smile on his face didn't just fade, it collapsed. The letter in his hand, which he'd been holding up like a goddamn trophy, just drooped. He looked at me, and it was like he was seeing me for the first time. Not as his fiancée, not as his partner, but as an auditor, a performance reviewer. Right, he said, his voice completely flat. All the light was gone. Phase 1. He took the letter from my hand, folded it neatly, and put it on the kitchen counter. He didn't look at it again. And I, in my infinite and catastrophic stupidity, thought he was just overwhelmed. I thought he was finally seeing the sheer scale of the future I was building for us, and it was just a lot to take in. I had no idea I had just taken his greatest personal victory and stamped it with a big, red insufficient. That night, the atmosphere in our apartment was thick and heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. I tried to start conversations, about dinner, about my day, but his answers were just these clipped, one-word responses. He wasn't angry, not in a way I recognized. He was just absent, like his soul had already packed up and left. Around 10, he came and sat on the couch opposite me. He didn't turn on the TV. He just sat there, looking at his hands for a long time. I was getting annoyed, honestly. I was thinking, God, can we just get over this? I mapped out a brilliant future for you, can I get a thank you? Finally, he looked up, and his eyes were so tired. It was a kind of exhaustion that went bone deep. Marin, he started, and his voice was so calm it was terrifying. When I got the offer letter today, you know what the first thing I thought was? I just shook my head, my heart starting to pound. It wasn't joy, he said, his voice quiet but clear, each word a perfectly placed stone. My first feeling wasn't excitement, it was anxiety, a cold knot in my stomach, and my first thought was, is this going to be good enough for her? He let that hang in the air for a second, and in that moment, I realized something. Being with you, it feels exactly like being in my father's house again. It's the same feeling. The feeling that I am a project that is perpetually behind schedule, that I am a constant disappointment, that my best is never, ever enough. My mouth went dry. I tried to say something. That's not true, It is true. He cut me off, not with anger, but with a finality that was absolute. You don't love me, Marin. You love a version of me that you've invented in your head. A version that gets an MBA, that works at an Ivy League, that makes a certain amount of money so he can look good next to you at a party. But that's not me, and I can't. I can't spend the rest of my life trying to become someone else just to earn your approval. He reached up and slowly, deliberately, twisted the engagement ring off his finger. It was a simple silver band we'd picked out together. He placed it on the coffee table between us. It made a soft, final little click. You were right all along, he said, his voice breaking for the first time. I don't measure up. I'm not good enough for you for the life you want, and I've finally decided to stop trying to be. I can't do it anymore. He stood up. So I'm letting you go. I'm setting you free, so you can find the man you're actually looking for. And then he just walked into the bedroom and started pulling a suitcase out of the closet. I just sat there frozen. There was no argument. There was no debate. It was a verdict, a sentencing. And I had been the judge, the jury, and the prosecution, all without ever realizing I was putting my own relationship on trial. For the first hour after he left, I was just numb. I sat on the couch, staring at the ring on the table. Then the numbness wore off and the rage kicked in. How dare he? After everything I'd done, all the planning, all the pushing that was for us. He was ungrateful. He was weak. He couldn't handle a strong woman who wanted the best for him. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking with fury, and called Jenna. She was my ride or die, the one who always got it. I was ready for her to join my righteous anger, to tell me I was better off without him. He's gone, I spat into the phone the second she picked up. Hudson's gone. He just packed a bag and walked out. Can you believe the nerve? Because I wanted him to get a job at a better university. He's too sensitive. He's got a victim complex about his dad, and he's projecting it all onto me. I went on like that for a solid 5 minutes, just a torrent of blame and disbelief. When I finally paused to take a breath, expecting her to jump in with "what a jerk." The line was just silent. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't say anything. "Jenna," I said, my anger starting to curdle into confusion. "Are you there?" "Yeah," she finally said, and her voice was weird. It wasn't supportive, it was cautious, hesitant. "Marin, listen, can I be honest with you? Like, brutally honest." "Of course," I said, though a cold feeling was starting to creep up my spine. She took a deep breath. Do you really think you were good to him this past year?" The question hit me like a slap in the face. "What are you talking about? I was trying to build him a better future." "No, Marin," she said, and her voice was firm now. "That's not what it looked like from the outside. It looked like you were constantly telling him he wasn't good enough. We all saw it. All of your friends. It was hard to watch, honestly. You treated him less like a fiancé and more like an underperforming employee." My throat closed up. I couldn't speak. Then she delivered the final blow. "He talked to Kevin, you know," she said, referring to her husband. "A few months ago, after that dinner where you made that bootstrap comment, he was really down. He asked Kevin, and I'm quoting here, he said, 'Are all successful women like this? Do they all make their partners feel like projects that need fixing?'" The phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. It wasn't just Hudson's opinion anymore. It was everyone. They all saw it. They all saw me as this monster. This cold, calculating manager of a man I was supposed to love. The entire narrative I had built in my head. The supportive partner, the visionary, the power couple architect. It all just shattered into a million pieces. I wasn't the hero of the story. I was the villain. It's been weeks. The first few days, I tried everything. Texts that went from angry to pleading to just a single question mark. Voicemails where I was sobbing so hard I couldn't even form words. Emails with subject lines like, "We need to talk," and then, hours later, "I'm so sorry." Nothing. My number was blocked. My emails went unanswered. He was just gone, a ghost who had left behind a perfectly folded set of sheets on his side of the bed and an engagement ring on the coffee table. My nights became a blur of wine and obsessive thinking. My work suffered. My friends stopped calling as much, probably tired of my broken record crying. I was completely alone in the wreckage I'd built. And then, one night, in a moment of pure, pathetic desperation, I did it. I went to the Instagram page of a mutual friend from his college days, someone I knew he still kept in touch with. I scrolled through their following list, my thumbs swiping numbly until I saw it. A new profile. His name, but with a different picture. It was private, of course. But the profile picture was a tiny circle of him, arm around a woman I'd never seen before. She was pretty, but in a soft, unassuming way. No power suit, no sharp haircut, just warmth. My heart stopped. I clicked on her tagged name. Her profile was public. And that's where I live now, in this digital hell of my own making. Her name is Amelia, and she's a baker. She posts pictures of sourdough starters, intricately decorated cakes, and her dog. And him. She posts pictures of him. The one that broke me, the one I can't stop looking at, was posted 3 days ago. It's a selfie, taken in a bright, sunny kitchen. They're both covered in flour, laughing. He's looking at her with a kind of unguarded joy I haven't seen in years. A look I thought I was helping him earn. And the caption? The caption is the knife that twists in my gut every single night. It says, "Sunday mornings with the man who makes me feel like just being me is the most wonderful thing in the world." I just stare at it. I zoom in on his smile. I read the words over and over and over again. I close the app, my chest aching, and then 5 minutes later my thumb opens it again, as if it has a mind of its own. Refresh, refresh, refresh. Just sitting here in the dark, my face lit up by the screen, watching the happy, simple, beautiful life I told him wasn't good enough.